Do you know about Vault Zero? It previously wasn't considered canon within the Fallout universe, but that may be changing soon. I'm Mark from Digital Dissection, and today we're exploring the oft-forgotten vault-tec project that may now be more relevant than ever before. If you're not familiar with Fallout Tactics' Brotherhood of Steel, that's okay. There's plenty of Fallout fans who don't know the title despite the spin-off game premiering in 2001. It chose not to directly tie into the events of Fallout 1 and 2, instead focusing on a schism between the Brotherhood of Steel, particularly towards their inner squabbles of how to handle reclaiming the wasteland. The rift that forms involves whether the Brotherhood should accept outsiders or keep their bloodline purity unique to its original families. One side believes that the tribal groups beginning to form across the wastes can help maintain the ranks of the Brotherhood's forces, while the other side has no interest in taking the risks of that kind of expansion. Unfortunately for the pro-expansion group, they were tasked with going eastward after losing their bid to integrate with the masses, leaving on massive airships similar to others seen across the franchise. Their mission is to seek out and eliminate any remaining survivors of the super mutant army that was defeated at the end of the original Fallout games events. The trip would end long before its mission was completed, as a widespread lightning storm would ground the airships, and one in particular would land near the ruins of Chicago. Without delving too much further into Fallout Tactics' plot, what's important is that its characters eventually discover a vault that is much more different than any other across the franchise's history, and that would be Vault Zero. With over 120 plus known vaults within the Fallout universe, under 10% of them were created without nefarious experiments in mind. Vault Zero is incredibly unique in that it was the closest to actually involving the root purpose of vaults, to ensure humanity's survival post-war. What will become increasingly clear is just how much this vault influenced the rest of the franchise's history, despite being largely unrecognized for over 2 decades. Vault Zero was designed to be one of the largest of all of Vault-Tec's underground facilities. Built into the Cheyenne Mountain Complex in Colorado, its size was meant to act as the central hub for all vaults within the entire system, acting as a nucleus of sorts for all the others. Part of this strategy meant housing the world's greatest minds within it, protecting them, and a large quantity of advanced robotics and machinery meant to lead reclamation efforts when temperatures, radiation, and surface poison was deemed acceptable to resurface, and would initiate what is known as the Exodus Protocol. This strategy would be accomplished by aligning several concepts together, with the calculator being the central one. Rather than a traditional overseer, the calculator was a supercomputer, but not in the sense that you might be thinking. The brightest minds we spoke of before didn't exactly live in Vault Zero, like many others witnessed across the property. Instead, their brains were extracted and collectively used to design the ideal solution to a new world, once the previous conditions we described were met. Their bodies in the meantime would be held in cryogenic storage, to be reunited once more when the Earth was finally ready. Unfortunately, Vault Zero's neural network and mission would be undermined by budget cuts in the Department of Defense, as well as embezzlement issues throughout its construction. The brains used in the calculator were also doomed from the start, as the Neuralink technologies used to manage the computer lost control of it over time, as the brains themselves faced dementia and radiation poisoning as it gradually leaked into the facility. As we discussed earlier, the other part of Vault Zero's strategy involves production and housing of advanced robotics, meant to assist in the management of Vault Zero, as well as the previously discussed Exodus Protocol. The post-war strategy would involve humanity working side by side with technology to rid the wastes of threats and repopulation efforts. But due to the failures of the Neuralink, this had no possibility of ever working. By the time the calculator initiated the protocol, it would instead usher in a new state of survival by eradicating all life it came into contact with. Now, I don't want to ruin the entire storyline for you, but like many plot choices in the Fallout universe, you can impact just how things end based on your decisions. But that's not exactly why we're exploring Vault Zero. What becomes far more important to consider is just how much this seemingly non-canon game has actually made its way into the larger Fallout universe. This includes its video games and Amazon's TV series. Let's begin with the fact that if you were already a player of Fallout 3, you'd know that Elder Lions of the Capital Wasteland Brotherhood initially left the Lost Hills headquarters in New California. This attachment of the Brotherhood had several goals to achieve, but one in particular was to re-establish communication with a chapter from the group who was lost somewhere near Chicago. The group led by Lyons would unfortunately not find this lost group, and would continue their mission before reaching Pittsburgh, and later, the ruins of Washington, D.C. Fallout 4 would also indicate that the Brotherhood's use of airships before the Prydwen was more common at one point in the faction's history, and that a very large fleet had once existed. The fleet, however, was seemingly lost, matching the events of the storms that grounded several ships in the events of Fallout Tactics. But separately of the Brotherhood is the concept of preserving intelligent minds to withstand nuclear devastation, and to find a way to continue impacting the world post-war, which clearly influenced Fallout New Vegas, specifically to the think tank located in the Big MT. The concept of preserving intelligent brains takes center stage in the DLC of New Vegas titled Old World Blues, as the executives of the pre-war Big MT Research and Development Facility sought to find a solution to their mortality, and develop the think tank concept to remove their brains from their bodies and continue experimentations permanently. Mirroring the failed execution of Vault Zero's neural link was the idea that the prolonged existence of human brains led to some think tank members becoming sinister and increasingly evil over time. Brains simply are not meant to last longer than a human lifetime. But one more reason why Vault Zero is now more relevant than ever is because of the events of Fallout's first season on Amazon Prime. And if you don't like spoilers, we recommend you finish the show and come back later. Don't worry, we'll wait. Okay, here we go. In Fallout's first season, we learn vault-tec's nefarious plans for the future, involving social and psychological experiments, as well as plans to initiate the Great War itself. During this reveal, part of that strategy involves revealing the map of the vaults themselves. While they do not call out Vault Zero itself by name, the strategy of preserving vault-tec's leadership and future prospects is managed by an initiative called Bud's Buds, a cryogenic freezing program that ensured the survival of the corporation, created by Bud Askins, a junior vice president at Vault-Tec. Askins himself would go on to become a robo-brain, a less advanced version of the think tank brain preservation method. What's important to point out is that these concepts power the architecture of Vault Zero as well. And while Bethesda hasn't publicly written off Fallout Tactics as a part of its potential narrative, there's an idea to think about in relation to its purpose. Bud Askins and Hank McLean both end up being overseers, specific to Vault 31 and 33 respectively, and their roles in the organization clearly allowed them access to being a part of Vault-Tec's post-war strategy. But where exactly are the rest of the senior leadership that comprise the organization? One could theorize that Vaults 31, 32, and 33 are only a snapshot of managing areas of the United States as part of the nuclear reclamation process. If the idea of Vault Zero could be further reintroduced, much like several aspects of its structure already have been, it's possible that future seasons of Amazon's TV show, or the Bethesda-led video game series, could return to this concept. After all, Bud Askins' program for reintroducing Vault-Tec leaders seemingly worked in California. What's to say that higher-ranking officials weren't preserved somewhere else? What's to say they're not held in a remote bunker in Colorado, armed with powerful technology? There are, of course, many possibilities to consider, and even more ways for Vault Zero to capture considerable relevance, if it's indeed the nucleus of Vault-Tec's plans for the world. After all, we've really only met a few individuals involved with the corporation. Scratching the surface of parties we really don't have that clear a picture of. Cooper Howard alludes to this fact as well, as he mentions that someone is clearly pulling the strings of the Great War, and his wife Barb clearly contributed to these notions, but who else above her could possibly be involved? At this point in Fallout's history, Vault Zero and Fallout Tactics at minimum have had a major impact on areas the franchise has explored. And potentially, it has a great idea in Vault Zero that could lay the groundwork for even more revelations in its storytelling. But let us know if you think we're dead wrong in the comments. And as always, thank you for joining us for a Fallout story. This time, the often forgotten history of Vault Zero. Stay tuned for more Fallout stories on this channel, including our full playlist at the end of this video. And until next time, pop culture nerds, keep on dissecting.